Glemser would like to welcome and thank you for joining us for today's webinar presentation entitled Avoid High-Risk, Non-Compliant Content with ComplianceAuthor for Clinical Labeling, featuring recent customer success at GlaxoSmithKline. Today's presentation will run approximately 45 minutes long. Please feel free to submit any questions you have using the questions feature at any point during the presentation. We will address all questions following the presentation during a Q&A session at the end. Please note that the questions feature is located in your control panel, which you can access by clicking on the orange arrow on the right-hand side of your screen. We are also recording the presentation today, and you will be notified via email once the presentation is available and downloadable via Glemser's corporate website. Our presenters today are Tammy Feitel and James Schwartz. Tammy leads the content management practice for Glemser Technologies, providing subject matter expertise to life science companies in regulatory content management, global product labeling, and structured content authoring. Tammy has over 26 years of experience analyzing, designing, developing, and implementing systems for a wide variety of industries. For the last 14 years, she has focused on managing and designing content management solutions for the life sciences industry. She specializes in project management, analysis, and design of software systems. James has been managing accounts within the life science space for the last 11 years. And now I will turn it over to James. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Good afternoon, Europe. Let me introduce you to Glemser Technologies. Glemser Technologies has been providing life science compliance IT solutions and services since 1987. We are experts, and we've been doing this a long time. We offer a suite from out-of-the-box to fully customizable content and quality management solutions, as well as services that exceed the most rigorous regulatory and quality compliance standards. Our offerings are backed by the extensive experience, trust, and responsiveness that we've delivered over 30 years in business. Our products and services allow our clients to mitigate risk, ensure product quality, comply with regulatory requirements, as well as gain operational efficiencies. Combined, these benefits reduce the overall cost of ownership associated with compliance systems. We have specialized experience with implementing both clinical labeling as well as global labeling solutions for pharmaceutical clients. We are a global company. Our U.S. headquarters is based in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, which is just outside of Philadelphia. We also have European offices in Dublin and development in Delhi, India. We have 3 practices at Glemser. Our content management practice helps our clients manage their compliance-related content. We offer solutions that simplify and automate processes within the R&D, quality, and supply chain. Our quality practice helps our clients harness the power of their records and reporting so you can easily define, track, control, and report on core quality activities. We implement solutions to suit our clients' needs by delivering pre-configured packages or custom-tailored applications. Within consulting, our consulting practice does far more than just installing software solutions. Our experts work side by side with our clients during the prep work, analysis, rollout, training, troubleshooting, and beyond. Over the past 30 years, we've done a lot of business within the life science space. Here's just a snapshot of a handful of customers we've done business with. Half of these are supported out of our European office, and half are supported out of the U.S. headquarters. Next, I'm going to talk a little bit about the state of the industry and some of the challenges that the entire industry faces with clinical labeling. Many companies today have manual paper-based processes for managing their clinical labeling content. This is very labor-intensive, time-consuming process that is high risk for quality issues and often results in rework. There are several common issues faced by companies today with respect to clinical labeling content management. Within managing the study protocol changes, adding additional countries, changing the study type, such as from open to a blind study, changing the storage instructions. When they're managing multinational trials, they must align to national and global regulatory standards. Translation required, language of countries where manufacturing and end product distribution occurs. Ensuring compliance with regulatory or with country regulations. Multi-language labels are not consistent with the regional requirements of a country, can cause severe delays in your trial. There's a long approval process. Within the industry, we've seen anything from 10 weeks to as long as 20 weeks. Quality, compliance, and safety issues that are addressed early in the process will provide the necessary foundation for smoother production among subsequent steps. When you think of a manual process for content management of any kind, a few things come to mind. Cumbersome, siloed, error-prone, rework, insecure, just to name a few. There are many advantages to moving toward a more automated process. With the help of automation and technology, many of the common challenges being faced today can be eliminated. Automation will help reduce the workload and minimize deviations that result from manual processes. Let me introduce you to ComplianceAuthor. Glemser's ComplianceAuthor for clinical labeling is a solution that utilizes technology to solve complex problems. Our solution is built on Documentum's D2 framework. The ComplianceAuthor platform is a quality critical system for clinical trial supply labeling. The system has built-in processes that automate end-to-end regulated content management, including phrase library management, study data management, as well as label generation. The system's use of a flexible business rules engine helps enforce compliance by ensuring that the required phrases appear on the label every time. It's just a snapshot of a handful of key features of our solution that Tammy will get into in the live demo. Within the centralized repository is the key feature of the solution. These labels are company assets and should be treated as such. In the centralized repository, everything is stored in one centralized location. You have one single source of truth. Change control. Any approved content within this system that needs to be changed needs to go through a change control process. We store the change control with the document that has been changed, so it's in an audit-ready format. We have user-friendly workflows for review, approval, and even obsolescence. Electronic signatures, these replace your wet signatures today. They meet 21 CFR Part 11 compliance and European Annex 1113. Business rules engine, we compile all the regulated rules, regulatory rules, and business rules within your organization to enforce compliance. With business rules, you can't get it wrong. We have full life cycle versioning for all of your labels, from draft to approved to obsolete. Review and approval. A lot of companies today use email format for review and approval, but with our workflows, this speeds the process and cuts time out of your approval process. Translation management. We work with third parties, integrate with third parties, and can also manage translation in-house depending on what your needs are. So we have very flexible translation management. Glemser does not do the actual translation, but we manage the translated content. Data integrity. The system is a secure web-based system. We use roles and groups to allow users to access data that they're allowed to access. With data integrity, your data is secure and definitely reportable. This next slide just highlights how ComplianceAuthor is a flexible, integratable solution. We sit at the heart of your supply chain. We integrate with third-party translation companies in the top right-hand corner. You could do those with companies such as TransPerfect, LineBridge, or even in-house. We leverage automation to speed that process. We integrate with third-party layout tools such as Adobe InDesign, Quark interface, or even third-party in-house design. We have the abilities, once those documents are approved, to send electronically to a label print vendor for booklet labels. You could even print those in-house for single panel or even booklet covers. And randomization, typically supplied by the CRO, can be compiled into our solution or sent directly to the print vendor. But again, I just wanted to highlight how we sit at the heart of your organization. Next, I'm going to turn it over to Tammy Feitel for a live demonstration.
Thanks, James. Before I dive into the demonstration, I just wanted to reiterate really what the heart of the system is. So it really is to manage your label content for your clinical trial. And the heart of the system, I mean, you could take pretty much any content management solution and you can do some of the things that James mentioned, you know, having control, you could have version control, you could have, you know, asset control, security. But what stands out different from our system is the fact that we have the heart of the system, which is our business rules. And that, coupled with the phrase library, is really going to give you the power to reduce the label creation time. That's going to help us with automation. By specifying a few key features for your study, your label is almost created for you based on those business rules. And from that point forward, you're just making some minor tweaks. So I'm going to take you through about 5 different key functions in the system. It's going to take you through the initial label content creation, through the approvals, show how we can do those electronically, then generating single panel or single labels in multiple ways, either one at a time or all at the same time, and then combine them into a booklet. And finally, I'm going to show you how you can bring in any downstream artifacts. So once that label content is created and ready, it could be utilized by a label designer to create the layout, and that could be brought back into the system. So the idea is that all of your content is controlled in one place, which is always going to be controlled through security and accessible, and only that approved content is going to be viewed to those people that are authorized. So we can start with the creation of label content, and it's very simple. By initiating the function to create the label content, we're prompted to specify some mandatory pieces of information. Now, this type of information could be used to define your taxonomy of your content within the system. Specifying the countries is very important. It's going to drive what business rules are going to be applied. So using a very simple control, I can easily navigate through a very long list of countries and specify those to be included in the study. I can specify the type of label I'm creating and the type of packaging. All that information is going to be used for the business rules. By specifying product, we'll see how that's going to come downstream. And I can also answer some questions that's going to help me with my content creation. So all these pieces of information that I'm specifying now are going to come into play as soon as I hit that final button, and the system's going to go to the heart of it itself, look at those business rules, look at the content that I've just started to create, and determine which phrases should appear on my label just based on the information I provided and the business rules that are configured in the system. So we'll see how just by a simple mouse click, the content is already created almost completely for you. So over on the document preview, which I've just expanded so you can get a closer look, actually let me go back. We went a little too far. And we'll jump back to where we were. So right here on the left hand, on the right hand side is your preview. And this is showing you the label that was created automatically by the system when the business rules were applied. You can see most of those phrases are already selected for you. I didn't have to specify anything. But the next step we can do is to add a little more detail to that study. So now you see the editor, and the editor will allow you to very easily navigate through and select those pieces of information that are missing. By simply expanding on the group, you can see the phrases that are already approved in the system for use, and you can simply select which ones you need. Filtering allows you to drill down so that you're not having to scroll. If I select the next group of information, that's directions for use. Similar process, going through, selecting the value that I need. We continue the same process with the next group. And finally, when we come to the last group here, we see this looks a little bit different. There's placeholders where we can specify values. That allows you to have a fairly generic phrase, such as storage conditions, and you can specify the values at the time of study creation. Those groups that have compulsory phrases will have those phrases pre-selected, and those cannot be changed. If you want to add additional phrases, you can do so by choosing them from the library on demand. Simply add the phrase group, open that phrase group, and choose your additional values. Once you're finished, we can go ahead and reorder those if necessary, save our changes, and get back into the main system. We'll go ahead and check that content into a repository as a new version, adding comments if needed. Now this will create a new version, so everything is through version control. And that'll be checked into the system. The preview will refresh when you select the document again and show you the latest changes. We can also see an audit trail of all the changes that happened, including who did what and when. Let's take a look at that preview one more time. And once that refreshes, we will see that the selected phrases are now available on the label. We can also see different renditions of that label, PDF or Word, and by clicking on those, they can be opened in their respective native editing formats. We can also view content or export the content as needed locally and use it offline. The next thing I'm going to show you is how you can take the content you just created and route it through an electronic workflow. So by selecting the content, we can choose the menu option to either route it for review or route it for approval. When I route it for approval, I can choose lots of information. I can change the workflow name, for example, to something more descriptive if I choose. Then I also need to specify my recipients. Now these workflows are very configurable. You can send that to an individual or a group of people, should you choose, based on your business process. It's a very flexible engine. Other information that we can specify are any notifications to be received by workflow recipients that are going to be processing this task. So we can send them a little message. We can also verify the documents to be sent in the workflow or send up notifications. So if the workflow isn't completed by a certain date, the system will send a notification to all the participants, letting them know that there's work that's overdue. So now that content is set into a workflow, and the task recipient will receive an email notification that there's work for them to do. We can see the document is now promoted to the in approval state, which means it's locked down and can't be edited by other people. So I'm going to log out as my current user, and I'm going to log back in as the user that received the task, because one restriction in the system is that a person that's created the content cannot approve it. So as I log in as John Smith, I can change my workspace to the task workspace and see any workflow tasks that were sent to me. The first thing I would do is acquire the task and look at the attachments. Click on the attachment, it's going to show me what am I approving. I can see all the content on the label, make sure it's accurate. So if I acquire the task, I'm taking ownership of it with the intention of approving. I can also review any comments from other task owners, and then I can choose to approve, reject, or delegate the task. When I approve the task, I'm going to be asked for some optional comments. I will also be prompted to electronically sign the document by re-authenticating who I am and choosing my signature meaning, which is configurable and could be more than one option. That information is captured in the document's audit trail, and the document will be electronically signed when you're viewing it in PDF format. So if I log back in as the original person that routed the document for approval, I will see that there is another task waiting for me, letting me know that my approval, my workflow is now complete. The document's still in the approval state because that last task has yet to be processed. I can review all the comments of all recipients. I can look at the attachment, the content by selecting it, and I can process my task. Just by saying finish, I'm acknowledging that this workflow is complete. I can log additional comments if I choose and finish that task. If I go back to my workspace, I will see that the status of that document has now changed and it is completely approved. Additionally, if I look at the document itself and I scroll to the bottom of the document, we can see those electronic signatures that have been applied. The next thing I'd like to show you is how to generate the labels themselves. At this point, we've defined our label content, but what we haven't done is broken that content out by language onto an individual label. To generate the labels, we simply go back to our repository, and we can first check to make sure that we have all of the languages that we need by looking at a translation status. Here I can see that I have all the approved translations I need to create all the labels for my study. I initiate the action to either generate a single panel or all panels needed for the study. When I generate, I can choose to generate labels with full and/or minimal information, and I can define any countries where we can merge those two countries' rules onto a single page because they share a language. I will be confirmed to see the list. This is what I want to generate. Is this true? Yes. I can continue. And in the case where we have a phrase selected where there's more than one way to translate it, I will be prompted with instructions to choose the correct translation. Those panels will be generated as a background process, and you'll be notified via email when they're complete. But I can simply refresh the repository and see those panels appear when they generate. I can also go to the bottom of the screen and see a listing of all panels or all labels that have been generated for particular label content. Now we have some that are approved and some that are draft. Those that are approved needed no manual intervention. And here you can see for this French label, we have all the phrases in English, the phrase groups, and their corresponding translations. This content is simply rendered in a specific way. The way it's presented to you can be changed on implementation. For those panels that were draft, we would need to route them for approval, or as a highly authorized user, we can power promote that. Once again, highly authorized users only can skip the approval step altogether and manually promote that document to the approved state with electronic signature. Here we can see in both cases whether it's routed for approval or power promoted, that signature is applied to the document. Another way to generate a panel instead of generating all in one shot for all languages is to generate a single language panel or a label. So I can choose a language, choose whether it's full or minimal, and it's going to just create that French minimal information label. That process goes fairly quickly, and I can see here through the preview feature that label is already generated with minimal information with the translations applied where they are expected to be. Now this content would actually be taken in different formats, whether it be PDF where you could select the text off, or you could even take it in its native XML and work with that. The next thing I would like to show you is how you would combine all of those single panel labels or the single panels into a booklet. This is a very short process that takes all the content you've already generated and combines them and re-renders them into different formats that can be used downstream. So I may choose some optional information, or I may choose to generate a booklet with minimal information. And as you can see, it's a very quick process. That booklet is all generated for you and rendered in different ways. This looks a little bit different. The booklet will have a cover page with variable information. It will have a table of contents with action links that can jump you to specific panels. Once again, this format that's displayed here is configurable and can be changed based by simple configuration. We also have another type of PDF rendition, which is simply the information without all the extra information in case you just wanted to copy and paste those phrases directly. This version's a little bit simpler to use. It does contain all the information that was displayed on the other screen that we saw. If we wanted to work with other label design, we could export the content locally and digest. That published XML content can be consumed by Adobe InDesign. The next feature to show you is how we can then take that content we just generated, that booklet content. Let's say we export that locally and work with that in Adobe InDesign, and we actually generate a label layout. Or we want to generate a cover page for our master, or for our booklet. We'll do that outside of the process in another system, and we can bring that content back in and store it all in one place with the original label content. So by selecting that same study, I can say import, and what do I want to bring in? I could bring in a proof, I could bring in a master. I would navigate locally to find that document. It would automatically populate the format for me and prompt me for a configurable set of pieces of information or properties to specify that I could use later, either for taxonomy purposes or for searching the document. That would continue until all the required properties were specified, those marked with the red asterisk, and click the next button. Of course, after specifying all the information I wanted to. That will take the content from your local machine, bring it up into the repository, and relate it back to your original label content. You see it can store it all in the same folder, and it can be found in different ways, and it can be also routed for review and approval, just like your main label content or power promoted. The tabs at the bottom just show you different ways to view relationships between documents. So for label content, I can see all of the downstream documents that I've brought into the system. I can also view different renditions of the content that I just brought in. This is showing a PDF of the Word document that I just brought into the system with a configurable overlay applied to it. So that's just a brief demonstration of the system, showing you from label content creation all the way through to importing the downstream artifacts. I'd like to take a few minutes to talk about our specific implementation at GlaxoSmithKline. So why did they choose ComplianceAuthor for clinical labeling? The main driver was to improve quality and have greater control by removing the manual effort that was involved. They didn't have an automated end-to-end system at the time. They had manual processes in place to create and interpret the GMP order that was needed for label creation. The GMP order was just a Word document created from a template with free text. It included countries, questions regarding country regulations, product information, packaging instructions, and other information. The compulsory phrases that were required for the label were determined by someone who was manually reviewing the regulatory rules and deciding which phrases needed to appear on the label. Different people could potentially interpret the rules differently, which would result in label variability. The GMP order needed to be routed for review and approval, and this was done via email with wet signatures applied to a printed copy. As you can imagine, it's not controlled. It wasn't automated or audited outside of email threads. The time from creation of the GMP order to the approval was lengthy. The timing would vary between several weeks and several months. They recognized that the system could be used to drive standardization, reduce the time and the variability of the data. Configuring the business rules would replace the manual rule interpretation. Some of the other benefits they saw potential improvement on included improved lead times and access to more data for traceability. The ability to find all labels where a particular phrase is used was key. The ComplianceAuthor solution offered a lot of benefits, and these are just a few that they've realized since going live. So users users are having no issues working the system, and they're using the easy-to-follow workflow. The validated business rules engine removes the need to manually interpret the data and ensures that the rules are applied to label generation consistently every time. The role-based security ensures that end users are limited to the information that they need to perform their jobs. Users that are viewers only will only have to access approved content in the system. They don't have visibility to work in progress. This ensures that the information they see is accurate and up to date. Authors can create new studies and request approval from other authorized users right within the system. The phrase library contains approved phrases in all necessary languages, making it very easy to generate language-specific labels from approved content, as I showed in the demonstration. The translations within the phrase library can easily be maintained via integrations with translation providers or performed in-house. The built-in change control functionality, which I did not show you today, ensures that your change control process is followed when approved content is changed. Change control is kept in the same system along with the data being changed, and it can be easily retrieved if needed. All system activity is captured electronically, making it very easy to find out who made changes to labels and when they were made. This electronic record or audit trail can be easily exported from the system if needed. There's no risk of paper getting lost. Tracing the use of particular phrases has never been easier. Since all data is contained in one location and is searchable, users can easily query how phrases are used in the system. Just some of the reported benefits on top of what the solution provides. They've noticed a reduced label creation time. So they're able to reduce the time it takes to create the GMP order and to review that. Also reducing the time to define the label content for single panel labels and booklet labels. They're recognizing reduced workload and cost. So the workload associated with tracing where specific phrases have been used on labels across different studies is greatly reduced with the searching capabilities. And introducing workflow-driven automation to populate study information to enable compliant label content has also dramatically reduced the time. There is the rapid access to data via searching, so any information on a label can be used to search across the entire repository. Replacing manual processes and manual interpretation. So replacing the manual interpretation for study information and regulatory requirements for defining label content is a huge plus. The system is a single source of truth, so moving from paper-based ways of working to an electronic system ensures approved information is accessed securely and consistently. And they've also recognized that there's alignment with their your IT strategic direction. So they're moving to an off-the-shelf vendor product on top of Documentum's D2 platform directly aligns with that strategic direction. Some testimonials from our sponsor, which I will read verbatim. The system offers us the capability to systematically control and archive our label creation process via configurable rules that are consistently applied via automated logic. This will revolutionize our quality assurance position and deliver a step change in reducing quality failure and improving overall operational efficiency. It delivers a platform to standardize and control study design characteristics and nomenclature, which ultimately assures confidence that the translated label is accurate, complete, and compliant with regulatory requirements, avoiding significant manual interpretation and our previous ways of working. From the end users, they feel this will save hours of my life interpreting complex regulatory rules and GMP order information. Simple workflow to follow for approval of master labels. All required source documents are linked, and I no longer have to search for these. Very user-friendly and easy to apply electronic signatures. I hope this gives you an idea of the system and the capabilities that it offers and the benefits that GSK has seen. At this time, we'd like to turn it over to any questions that we may have from the attendees. Sarah, do we have any questions?
Yeah, thank you, Tammy, and thank you, James. We do have a question here. Can this be offered as a cloud solution?
Yes, great question, thanks. So today, all of our solutions are delivered as on-premise solutions. However, our near-term roadmap does include single-tenant and multi-tenant cloud offerings.
Okay, great. Okay, we have another question here. Is this for product labels or only clinical labels?
So this system is designed for clinical labels. However, there's no reason why you couldn't store other information in it. As I showed in the demonstration, we can bring the downstream documentation in. But if you wanted a system that just to control your product documentation, this actually has all the capabilities and to do that as well.
Okay, great. I'm going to give the attendees a couple more minutes in case there are any further questions. Okay, let's see, we have another question here. Can initial setup data be imported into the system instead of entered manually?
So as part of implementation, we would certainly work with you to get that data into the system. It depends on where it's coming from, but we could certainly import it into the system, but we would have to work through the details on implementation. Do we have any other questions, Sarah?
Looks like that's it for now. I'm just gonna last call for questions. Okay, well, we're sharing James's email address here. Certainly, we invite all of our attendees today to reach out with any follow-on questions. I'd like to thank Tammy and James for a great presentation, and also thank you to our attendees. And just a quick reminder that an email notification will be sent to you once the presentation today is available for on-demand viewing. If you would like a personal consultation, please contact James, or for further information on clinical labeling, please visit our website, www.glemser.com. Thank you again for joining us.